let's move forward to the next myth. I just love how people forget that back in 2005, Michael Jackson was found not guilty of child molestation charges. And it wasn't like the O.J. Simpson case where it was quite clear that O.J. was guilty, but the prosecution messed up. No, in Michael's case, it was quite clear that he was innocent and that the prosecution, their case was just a joke. But that's not what the media showed. No, the media manipulated things. They only showed the footage that they wanted to show. And this has been noted in many articles online. If you take the time to look at the FBI files, which I do have a link at the end of this video to show you, it'll be on my work site and it'll also be in my description bar, there's this article about how the FBI files pretty much prove that Michael Jackson was not a child molester. Now, if you took the time to read the Wikipedia page about Michael Jackson, it talks about the 1993 allegations and how Chandler supposedly described Michael's genitals in accurate detail. The Wikipedia is not true, and I'm tempted, you can change the Wikipedia, but I'm not going to bother. The thing is, the FBI files beg to differ from what Wikipedia says, and you guys got to remember, the thing about Wikipedia, anyone can edit it. If someone wanted to go in there and say that Michael Jackson was really a monkey, they could put that in there. Or say that the moon is made of cheese, they could put that in there. So don't believe everything you read on Wikipedia. The FBI files stated, and they also had a picture supposedly, Chandler claimed that Michael Jackson had a circumcised penis, and he drew a picture of a circumcised penis. The thing is, and this is proven in Michael Jackson's autopsy, which I also have a link to, he was not circumcised. Now, something tells me if the kid really did see his genitals, he probably would have noticed that his penis did not look like a normal penis. He probably would have noticed that it looked different. So if he really did get molested by Michael Jackson, I think he would have noted that his penis was not circumcised. But no, the kid said it was circumcised and drew a picture of a circumcised penis. And it's also been stated that this kid, Chandler, was given drugs by his own father to confess that he was molested by Michael Jackson. And I think it was also later noted that the kid admitted that he lied, which I also have a link to that article. So people, Michael Jackson was not a pedophile. He was not. I don't care if you guys say, oh, well, he was weird around children, but you gotta remember, for those who know him pretty well and have done their research, he was like a big child when he was around kids. He never had the chance to have a childhood. So it's understandable that, he would hang around kids. He loved kids. And you want to know something? There's nothing wrong with that. And for those who really know Michael, he's one of the most gentlest, kindest people you've ever seen who wouldn't even harm a fly. And there's also a YouTube video out there to prove that. He's pretty much in one of his concerts, and he's talking to the audience, and then he kind of stops, and he's calling security because there's a bug on stage, and he wants security to take care of the bug, but he's yelling at them saying, don't kill it. He keeps on saying, don't kill it, so the guy has to show him that the bug is still alive before he walks off with it. So, we're talking about a man who would never harm a fly. And, he would never harm a child. I mean, when you get to know him, you can see that he's that type of person. So I'll say this once more. Michael Jackson was not a pedophile. He did not molest children, so stop calling him a pedophile. Especially seeing he was proven not guilty. Let's move on to the next myth. It's true that Michael had surgery on his nose and his chin. His nose and his chin. The rest of his face, though? No. People are going to say, well, that's not true, but you want to know something? Take the time to study a picture of him when he was younger and a picture of him when he was older. Now, set aside the vitiligo, and you'll notice that the only real main difference was his nose and his chin. In some later pictures of him, he looks really skinny, and his cheekbones are more pronounced, but the thing is, that was because he lost weight in his face. If you watched, This Is It, his cheekbones aren't as noticeable in that. Thing is, he went through a period where he lost a lot of weight, thus making his face look a lot skinnier. Just because you lose weight in your face doesn't mean you had surgery on your face to make yourself look skinnier. It's a little thing called weight loss and weight gain. And you gotta remember, Michael Jackson was around 40 or 50 when he died. The thing with me, I think a lot of people thought he had a lot more surgeries than he did because of the vitiligo. For people who are not that knowledgeable about the history of Michael Jackson, they just see a picture of him when he was a kid and then see him when he's an adult and see that he's white and that his nose is smaller. They're going to say, oh, well, he had a ton of surgery to make himself look like a white man. Well, that's not true at all. In fact, Michael had surgeries done on his nose before he had the vitiligo. Or when he had the vitiligo, but it hadn't spread as much as it did. And here's an interesting fact. Michael Jackson originally had surgery on his nose not because he was dissatisfied with it. He had surgery on it because he had broken it during I think it was like during a dance routine around the Off the Wall era. He had surgery on it because, it was broken. It didn't look quite the same, and he also had trouble breathing, so that's what really started the whole surgery thing. And frankly, people, the way I see it, whether he had a ton of surgeries or not, who cares? I mean, really, why make such a big deal out of it? Michael Jackson was the only person out there who had tons of surgery done. Take Heidi Monahan, for example. She not only had surgery done on her entire face, keyword entire face, where Michael was just his nose and his chin, she had surgery done all over her body. Breast implants, the works. And yes, people made a big deal out of it at first, but now you don't really hear much about it anymore. Michael, though, he had surgery on his nose. For 10 years, his nose stayed the same, and yet people were still making a big deal about it. So you can't really blame him for getting all defensive and pissed off when people were making a big deal about his plastic surgeries. So, frankly, I don't get what the big deal is. It's his body. If he wanted to have surgery on it, that's his own business. So let's move forward to the next myth. It's true that back in the 90s, shortly after the first child abuse allegations, Michael was addicted to painkillers. That doesn't mean that he stayed addicted up until his death in 2009. No, the thing is, he sought out help back then and got clean and hasn't been addicted to painkillers ever since. So it really pisses me off whenever the tabloids bring up his death that they try to claim that he died because he overdosed on painkillers, because that's not what killed him. The tabloids fail to mention that his doctor is on trial for his death because his doctor was giving him a very heavy sedative called propofol, which, as far as I'm concerned, propofol is not something you take as a pill. It's something that has to be injected into you by someone else. And that when it's being injected into you by someone else, they have to monitor you until, you wake up from it. And from what I've heard, Dr. Murray did not do that. He injected him with propofol, left the room, and then came back to see that he was unconscious and dying. So, he was not addicted to painkillers. Moving on to the next myth, which is somewhat related to this. For those who have taken the time to look at Michael Jackson's autopsy report, and for those who have read the articles talking about Michael Jackson's autopsy report, you'll notice that those articles say, for those who do not understand medical terminology, that Michael Jackson was in good health when he died. He was not frail and sickly as the tabloids try to claim he was. He had a strong heart. He had a healthy liver. The only problem was his lungs. He had inflamed lungs, but that would not cause death. And also, I think it mentioned that he had arthritis and lupus. But other than that, he was pretty healthy for his age. He was also a healthy weight. He's 5'9", and I think when he died, he was around 130 pounds. That's a pretty healthy weight. That brings up another thing. People were always making a big deal saying, oh, he was wicked skinny when he died. I mean, I watched This Is It, and he didn't look that bad. He looked pretty healthy for his weight to me. And the thing that really cracks me up Michael Jackson has always been skinny. He's never been a big, bulky guy. He has always been a twig. Even when he was a kid, he was a twig. So it kind of cracks me up that people are saying, no, he is so skinny. Because you want to know what? He has always been skinny. He was a dancer. What do you expect? Dancers tend to have slim and slender bodies. Yeesh.